Hey there, Emma here, and in 2023 I hosted a painting challenge called Dogtober where we painted a different dog breed every day of the month. You may have seen some of the clips that I posted on Shorts at the time, just showing like a few little clips from each painting, but I've decided to go and pull out the real-time footage and share them this year so you can follow along if you'd like to. A couple of disclaimers/explainers. The point of the challenge for me was that I wanted to try and loosen up. I'm a realistic portrait artist, and so I gave myself a smaller size to work with as well as a time frame. I'm painting on roughly about A6 size paper, which is pretty small. In terms of measurements, that's like roughly 10.5 centimeters by 14.8 centimeters or 4.1 by 5.8 inches. And I also tried to set myself a time limit of about 15 minutes. I really wanted to challenge myself to loosen up, but you can approach this any way you like. Maybe you'll do it in a different medium or a certain color palette. The options are endless, totally up to you, but you're more than welcome to follow along, and these are kind of like mini tutorials. I do want to point out though that as this was unusual for me and a challenge to me, not all of them are that good. I really struggled in the beginning to start loosening up, and particularly struggled with the long-haired dogs. But you know, it's an adventure and you'll see me progress through the month and learn a lot. If you want to grab the outline sketches, I have put all 31 sketches into a document, a PDF that you can download from my website. I will link that in the description. You'll just need to pop your email address in, which will sign you up to my mailing list, but then you'll get the document with all 31 outline sketches, roughly about the same size that I'm painting. You're more than welcome to print them, trace them, size them up or down if you need to. I'll be working with my usual set of supplies and mixing colors as well, but I will talk you through the process as we go. Let's jump in. Day 30 of Dogtober, our second last painting, we have a vizsla. I did already have the color mixed on my palette, so I will talk you through how to make that if you haven't watched any of the previous tutorials. But there's nothing to say you can't use a pre-made brown color as well. But the way that I usually mix my browns and also my dirty blue-gray colors is the same. I mix up yellow and red to create an orange, and then I start adding bits of blue. Blue and orange are opposite on the color wheel, so they neutralize each other. And depending on the different ratios of each in the mixture, you will get a light brown, a dark brown, all the way to like a dark, dirty gray. So have a go at mixing that, or go back and watch one of the others. Most of the dogs this month have been brown, so there's many, many examples. But I have just got started by laying this color in and trying to loosely create this painting. So I've started with the floppy ear, and then as I've come across onto the head, I've tried to leave some gaps in my strokes so that that ear is going to be separated from the head, even though it's the same color, and we're just going to very easily be able to see that separation at the end. Then what I've started to do is alternate between color and watery color, so not like pure white water, or clear water I should say, but it's just a little bit of brown on my brush compared to a lot. And what I'm trying to do here is just quickly and easily create the highlights and the shadows. So I've kept the left side of the face quite dark. Then as I've come across the face, which is on a diagonal, I've made that color really watery and pale. I've put a little bit of a shadow just on the like eyebrow of the right eye, and we can work more on those finicky little facial details on a dry layer. And then I've switched over to the darker color again, just on the right side of the face, because I'm imagining there that the ear on the right that's dangling down is just casting a little bit of a shadow there, but the ear itself is catching quite a lot of light. So that's why I've switched to a more watery color there again. A little bit darker on the very bottom of the ear where there's this sort of fold, and then we're going to start coming down onto the body. So again, a little bit of a shadow just on like the crook of the neck on the right, under that ear basically, like it's casting a shadow. I'm imagining the light coming from the top right, and it's casting a bit of a shadow onto the side of the neck. Got a little bit of a highlight just down the center of the neck there, just where there's kind of like a few folds and stuff in these dogs. So I'm imagining that part sticking forward. And then the very left side is back in the shadows again. So I'm going to fill in all the rest of this gap that I've just had now, but keeping it quite light on the right. And then as it comes over to the left, it gets darker. I've put some quite dark color at the bottom there where I'm imagining the legs. And we are just going to pop some watery color to fill the rest of this dog body in. It's still wet, which means it's still workable. So I'm taking my damp brush with color on there and going back, popping that little separator in kind of like the throat, the the neck folds, I guess, separating that a little bit there. Bit more darker color on the fold in the right ear. Going back to the left side of the face and lifting off in a couple areas, which is where we actually remove paint. So I've taken off like a bit of an eyebrow that's going up on a diagonal, giving it like a very cutesy puppy eye look, and a little bit under that left eye as well. The face is a little bit drier now, so it's giving me some ability to add some more color without it exploding everywhere. So I've added just a little bit more around the eye, a couple little lines on the right side of the face, and I'm popping a little bit of dark color just under the nose on top of the mouth. And then popping in the bottom of the mouth as well, just with dark color. And then we can dry that all off. So I know that moved really quickly. I hope you stayed with me. If not, you can rewind and watch it again. You don't have to do it as fast as I've been doing it. I'm adding some more orange into this puddle now because we've dried it off and I felt like it's really cold. I felt like it's not exuding much like warmth and the color didn't quite go the way that I wanted it to. So we're going to glaze over a whole nother layer. And this is the beautiful thing about watercolor, is the ability to layer it. And it is much easier to add than it is to remove. So we've already got our shadows and our highlights in place. So if we evenly put this color over this dog, it's not going to change those. It's just going to alter the color slightly and make everything a little bit darker. I am strategically making it a little bit more watery on the right though, to emphasize that highlight. But what a cool thing to do, right? If you're not happy with the color, you can do just a swipe over, a glaze of a new color over it and really change that and warm that up a bit. So that's what I'm doing here. So leaving out everything but the eyes and the nose again, but taking this color all over the dog, and see how much that has just changed it and warmed it up a little bit. And that was using orange. So you have to remember that if you're glazing a color over the top of another, it's not going to turn out exactly like the color you mixed on the palette, because there's something underneath it that's going to influence that. And glazing is actually a way to color mix. I'm going and using this orangey color for the eyes now. So just popping them in, and like we've done in many of these previous paintings, I'm leaving some gaps around the outside edges of the eyes. So I'm not filling in the whole vacant space that we didn't paint in. With a dry brush now, I'm just going to try and lift off the very bottom of the eyes. So this is just a way to create some dimension in those eyes. Just having the bottoms of them highlighted, it makes them pop a little bit. And we are going to shade the tops of those eyes quite a bit once we pop the pupil in. So I'm adding some black into my brown mixture now. So just some pre-made Mars black and popping that into the brown to get a dark brown black color. In a lot of these tutorials, I've just been using Mars black straight from the pan and popping the nostrils in, but I've mixed it in with some brown this time. So I've popped in the two little nostrils, the split down the center of them, and a little bit of a shadow on the bottom lip, and then we can dry that off. So back into this dark browny black color, and I'm going to outline the eyes. So I know we left some gaps around them, but I'm feeling like they just need a little bit more definition. We can still keep some of those gaps in there if we're careful. Don't freak out if you accidentally paint over them. But we're just outlining the eyes a little bit. And we really want to focus on shading the top half of them though. Keep it quite light on the underside. Because if you go quite heavy around the whole eye, what you tend to do is step into a bit of like illustration territory and you make things look very cartoony. So that wasn't the aim here. We just wanted the eyes to pop out a little bit more given they're very similar colors to the fur, but we don't want to make them cartoony. I've just done a light wash of brown over the nose, keeping it lighter to the top right, but we will need to adjust that again later. Bit more black into this brown mixture and we can go ahead and once again darken around the tops of the eyes. Be very careful around the bottom. We really want to emphasize like the shadow at the top of the eye and also like kind of the outer corner as well. And all of a sudden that's just helped those eyes stand out a lot more. Another wash of color over the nose, keeping it pale on the right, so filling that in with water, letting the color kind of softly move across towards it. And now into some Mars black, and we are going to paint the pupils in. Just want to be really careful here. You can definitely use a smaller brush. I'm just being bold here and using my size 6, I think. It might even be my 8. I can't read. But I'm just going to pop those in towards the tops of the eyes. Now, they are perfectly positioned and whatever, but see how it looks quite scary? So what we want to do is actually shade the tops half of those eyes so it doesn't look so intense. So I've dried them off before doing this, and now just going in with my watery, kind of orangey browny colour. I'm shading the top half of these eyes, and see how all of a sudden it just looks a lot less creepy and a lot more cute and like puppy dog eyes. So we can dry that off. We are on the home stretch now. I'm dipping into my white colour, and we can highlight these a little bit, and shading them as well at the top half just means we have a better canvas to highlight them, because otherwise everything there is quite pale and we might just cover up the pupil and that's it. So I'm doing a couple little dots, teeny tiny, at the top half of the eye. I like to sometimes cross them over the pupil a little bit without covering the whole thing up. And I've dabbed a little bit of white on the top right of the nose. Back into my brownie colour, and I'm just going to do a little bit of construction work here. So I've emphasised the eyebrow on the left and I'm working on the right now. Just trying to carve out the nose a little bit, push some of these elements back into the painting. So going around that eye again on the right, underneath it. Doing the same thing on the left. Shading the nose a little bit as well, just on the very far left. I'm not going to blend that over or anything like that. I'm dipping into my 3/0 now and getting a bit more white on my brush. Dabbing the excess off. And I'm going to do some whiskers now. So very faint whiskers. You could also do these in black because, let's be honest, it's pretty pale fur. They're not standing out all that much. But I'm just going to pop some little wispy little whiskers in there and try and, especially in this area, drag them onto that crook of the neck that has some darker colour. That's going to help them stand out a little bit more. Dry it off, and that's our vizsla. One more day to go. See you then.